All right, here we are, live and ready to go.
Let's do it.
It's Bidan and Harry today talking about renting versus buying, a very, very hot topic. Stay tuned and we will take you through the ups and downs of buying versus renting.
Let's do it.
Cheers. All right, here we are. How are you, Harry?
I'm well.
I'm
Ready
well.
for another talk, another
Another
evening
power
minutes.
back. Oh, yeah.
We're
So,
back.
how's the day been for you? Busy day?
Oh, another busy day in real estate. What time is it? It's 8 o'clock.
8
We've been here
o'clock.
for what, 12 hours now?
Roughly 12 hours, but that's every other Monday for us. Nothing
That's
new.
it. Nothing new.
Yes, so renting versus buying, I think that has been the most discussed topic in every
It has.
household
Yeah.
because you're not very far off paying that rent, and you can top up a few $100, and it could be a mortgage. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the disadvantages and the advantages, right? The pros and cons with renting. So when it comes with renting, like you've got the disadvantages, like you don't have to necessarily you don't have any not holding deposits.
Yeah.
But you've essentially maybe help me out here for a second.
So you need a big capital.
You need a big
Like if you're buying a property, you need a big capital because there's stamp duty. Well, first thing first, there's that 10% deposit.
correct.
And in Northern Beaches, your average two-bedroom apartment is 800 grand. So
Yeah.
you need 80 grand upfront. These days, few of the owners they accept 5% as well. So let's go with that.
Yeah.
You got 40 grand minimum. You need the solicitors, pretty much all those due diligence costs. Let's add 5 more grand.
Yeah.
And you got stamp duty there. But first home buyer, no stamp duty.
That's it.
But if you're not a first home buyer, there's 30 to 40 grand there as well.
Yeah, so essentially what I was saying before is if you compare that with renting, all you need is the holding deposit, which equivalates to 2 weeks of rent, and then you've got your bond payment, which equivalates to 4 weeks of rent, and that's all the necessary payment you need to secure the property. So you've
let's
just got
say
the holding deposit.
Average
bond.
two-bedroom unit, what is rent for in Northern Beaches, Harry?
Average 2-bedroom, depending on where it is, the size, the location, you're looking at maybe lowest end of 700 up pushing 820
Just to 800, for instance.
Yeah, 800.
So 2 weeks rent would be 16.
Yeah.
And how much holding deposit for?
So
weeks?
yeah, so that'd be about 4 weeks, which is the bond would
32.
probably be about 30 around the 3,000, between 3 to 3,500,
38. So
So,
roughly 5 grand.
roughly 5 grand, and then you've already secured that property
There you
straight
go.
off the
So
bat.
2-bedroom property, you go rent, you get 5 grand.
Yeah, around
roughly
that. Yeah,
5 grand is what you would need beforehand for a bond, rent,
give or
and
take.
all the other due diligence. And then you could buy property 2-bedroom, you would need roughly 50 grand.
But
So,
but
there's a
you
but
do-
there.
there is a but. But the advantage of that is you own an asset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
You can essentially sit back and enjoy that capital growth
Exactly.
over time.
But we're renting, you're paying someone else's mortgage.
Correct. So renting essentially is you're paying money,
Mhm.
but essentially that's dead money.
Yeah.
It's not contributing towards any payment.
No.
That's just money going straight to the landlord's mortgage, and you're essentially paying his asset.
Definitely.
I think that's one of the biggest downsides to
Mhm.
renting, but of course, at this time of day, not many people have the option. It's essentially a lot of people are just forced to rent, purely because not too many people. It's very difficult to actually secure a property in today's market in terms of buying. But yeah, I think that's one of the most annoying realities
Definitely.
these days. Yeah,
And with the interest rate fluctuation as well, it doesn't help the buyers to do their due diligence and buying a property there. And because you never know, you might enter the market at, let's say, 2 to 3% interest rate up 3 years ago, and you bought a 2-bedroom apartment. Now your repayments have been growing up every year. So if the repayments are not growing as with your salary, then you are stuck there big time.
Yeah.
Right. I know rent has been increasing as well. Like we've
Yeah.
seen 2-bedroom apartments come from 600, 650, 700 to 800 now. But those are very little increments, and you can kind of cope up with it.
correct. Yeah,
Right. And worst come worst, you can always move out to a cheaper place or a cheaper suburb.
Yeah.
But if you own that asset, you gotta be there.
That's it.
There's no easy way out.
Yeah.
So you gotta sell the place or rent the place, or there is lots of things, and you invested your hard-earned money. So having that 50 grand is no
Yeah.
joke. Like, try saving a 50 grand, right?
It is.
That's
It's hard.
that's a lot of money there, and that invested in a place, you can't just snap and get out of there.
Yeah.
I think renting is easy because you don't own it.
That's it.
It
Yeah.
is,
And you don't pay any liabilities for the property,
Yeah.
right? So especially as a buyer, you've got to pay for council rates. You've got to pay for strata. Strata's a killer because there's no escape, guys.
No.
It's a cost that you have to pay
Mhm.
for the property, for the maintenance of the block, and that's got to be paid every quarter. So you
Definitely.
no escaping those outgoings for the property.
There,
Whereas if you're a renter, you just sit back and relax. You don't
just
pay
pay
for
rent.
any maintenances. Is all landlord, obviously, depending on what it is. If it's something strata related, but you just get to sit back and
Definitely.
essentially relax.
But at the same time, I guess, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
there,
no, that's all
But
right.
with the maintenance, I get, like we were having a chat earlier.
Yeah.
It has to get accepted there.
Yeah, so there is a bit of a time
There's
lag.
a bit of
so
delay. Yeah.
hypothetically, if something does pop up,
Yeah.
Whether it's a water leak or regardless if there's a maintenance issue with the property, you do need to notify the landlord, or you need to notify the property managers, and then we need to request that from the landlord, and then wait for approval to send the work order to the tradesman. So there is that time lag, which is quite annoying for tenants at times. Because there's a small waiting period where we've got to arrange for tradesmen to get in there as soon as possible. So you can't actually get the problems fixed as quickly as if you were an actual buyer.
Because there's a step of that we have to follow as a
Correct.
property manager.
Yeah, there's a procedure.
Like, let's say the tap is leaking in the kitchen. If you own the place, you'd go to Bunnings, buy a sealer, buy a
That's
replacement tap.
You can get it done in the next hour.
In a few hours.
If you really wanted to.
But if I'm a tenant, I'll
Yeah.
have to call, hey, Harry, I'm the tenant from 123 place. Smith Street. The tap's leaking. Can you please arrange something?
Yeah.
And he'll say, okay, cool. He'll try to contact the owner. Owner might be available, might not. That'll happen. Owner say, okay, get a tradesman. Tradesman will go there, provide a code,
Yeah.
comes back, and it's a long process.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have to pay for maintenance.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's what we're here to talk about.
And also another downside with renting is that I think a lot of the times, coming from a property manager, I would say that a lot of tenants like a little bit of privacy.
Yes.
Because once every 6 to 9 months, we've got to do inspections, and we've got to liaise with tenants, and we've got to arrange and do a quick rundown video, and we've got to make sure that the property's always up to standard. It's in good condition. So there's no issues with the landlord. So again, a lack of privacy. I think that's a big one. Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest issue that with buying a property, something with strata title, is having a strata levy. That's something big, and you'll never see it coming. It's always like you might just buy a property. That's
a killer.
Yeah, there's quarterly strata that you have to pay just to maintain the day-to-day basis.
And then a window might crack on the common property, and then everyone would have to chip in 10 grand or something.
There might be concrete cancer or water leaks.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have to pay 40 grand.
Yeah.
Just from your unit. And coming up with 40 grand from an investment that you're
not
thinking.
Not many people have that in the just saved in the back of their pocket, especially owners that have their mortgage. You know what I mean? Mortgages on.
Exactly.
I was looking at a property. I was doing the maths on it. A $600,000 property, depending on your income. For my specific circumstance, my repayments would be roughly $1,000 to $1,100 a week for the repayment. So if you're paying that much money a week, and you've got 40 grand that comes out of nowhere, it's super difficult to pay that out of nowhere.
You just stepped in the property market. Yeah. Yes, I got an investment. You want to get that rent coming in to support the mortgage.
Yeah.
And then bam, 40 grand strata levies, and you would never see it coming.
It's in the back of your head.
Right? Because all the committees has been set. If there's a concrete cancer and water leaks, it has to be done instantly. Because it will do further damage. And that's one of the biggest concern owning property, strata levy. So buyers.
That's why you got to do your research.
Yeah, when buying a property,
on the building.
big time. And if something's selling too cheap, you got to ask the question.
Correct. Yeah.
right? You
That's
got to
it.
be there. But as an investment, if you buy the property, it has few issues. You pay the strata levies, you can always claim it back. Like
Yeah.
it's an expense for you because it's an investment. Like anything you can do, it can be claimed back. But as a renter, if there's some strata levy, some work going on, the landlord would pay for it. And if it's too much of a hassle, you can just move out to a different property.
That's it. Yeah.
I think you have that freedom.
Yeah. Well, I think also with buyers, because it's super difficult in today's market for both parties, I would argue actually, if for whatever reason, like coming back to this levy, that you're not able to make the mortgage repayments, and you're forced to sell the property, you might be, and it's very unlikely, it's very uncommon, but you might actually be selling the property at a loss,
Yes.
which is at a deficit, which is a huge disappointment because you saved up the holding deposit, you got your pre-approvals from the bank, you've got all the necessary, you worked so hard to secure the property,
Exactly.
and you're paying it off slowly over time, and then boom, a levy hits you out of nowhere, 30-40 grand, depending on what it is, and then you're forced to sell it, and it might be, depending on the market, if it's a booming market or whatever market it is, you might actually have to sell the property at a loss, which is a huge disappointment.
And it's a big loss of time and money.
That's it. And then
and
you got to start again, back to square one.
And it's all that emotional baggage that you carry.
Yeah.
Next time you buy a property, you might be a bit scared, take a few more steps back.
Yeah.
Or be a bit more careful.
Do more thorough research.
So it's, I think, that peace of mind that you get. Like we were having a chat earlier. If you have to pay that $200 mortgage every week, you would have to earn a certain amount.
Correct. Yeah.
So before chucking in a sick day,
servicing.
So before chucking in the sick day, you will think two or three times,
twice,
right? Because you need that payment, right? You gotta go to work, get that money coming in.
Even
so
if you're sick.
Yeah. So
if you're sick, work.
But hard workers,
that's it.
That's what it is about. Yeah. Like if you want to get, nothing comes easy. So paying that $1,200 mortgage every week, you have to get that work done. So with renting, it's a bit easy. You've got $800, $900 per week. That's going to be a rent, and even if it goes up, it's not going up by $100 or $200.
It won't be increasing as high as it was at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we still are seeing a lot of rent increases. I'm seeing a lot of rent reviews being sent to our landlords. Obviously, not 30-40% increases, but we are still seeing about 10, 15, sometimes 20% increases still. But we are, again, as we mentioned in the last video, we are still going through slightly of a stabilizing period, I think, in the rent market. I don't think it's just booming off, and we're not asking for crazy rent still. But
property prices always go up.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day,
Regardless.
if you have the capital, definitely buy, because you'll be investing in an asset. All that money that you're paying in rent, instead of you can have an asset here, and after 10 years down the track of renting versus buying, you can kind of say, okay, that is mine. I've paid this much.
And I think the only thing stopping you with that is the risk factor associated with that. I think that's the only thing that will, that people will look at and assess and say, hey, look, I'd like to buy that, but I've got to take into consideration levies. I've got to take into consideration interest rates and all of these pros and cons. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to work hard for it and take the risk, I think it's incredibly rewarding. Yeah, very rewarding.
If you look at a longer run, 10 years timeline, I think having that property there, because every week you're paying that mortgage, 10 years down the line, you'll have enough equity there.
Yeah.
So after 10 years, 100%. You might say, okay, this much. Let's say you have 400 grand equity out of that property, you might have saved 50 more grand on the side.
Correct.
That could be a thing for a second or a third investment property.
And I think that's very common. I think it's more common than uncommon for that to happen to you, especially properties on the northern beaches. I don't think, well, obviously I'm not a sales agent, but from listening to sales agents and what's going on around the office, I think it'd be very unlikely for you to sell, for you to make a loss on a property. But that's just my personal take on it.
Yeah, there's definitely but it's not every shoe fits for everyone. They have their own things.
That's it.
They have their own priorities. Do what's priority for you.
Yeah.
If you buy a house, you might not be able to get that brand new car that you like,
That's it.
right? Because it affects your borrowing power highly.
It does.
But if you are renting, and you can't afford that house yet, that car might make a lot more sense right now.
Depends
Because
on the car.
it depends what car,
Depends
of
what
course.
car.
Yeah, right. Well, good car then on an everyday basis. Toyotas are getting popular, or
Bids wants a Porsche,
one
a
day,
sports car,
but a property first.
but a property
But a
first.
property
to pay off the car.
Pay off the car.
It's going to take longer,
Yeah,
but I think it's better to have an asset paying for your liabilities
exactly.
rather than just having
So you got to think
liabilities.
what's asset and liabilities, and
That's
also you can't raise a house.
You can't race a house, but you can live in a car.
Live in a car. Anyway, going off topic there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think. So we've seen, like, because of how the market is, how the economy is, the only people that are buying new cars and people that are buying the big TVs and appliances or furnitures are the people who are not paying mortgage, because they don't have that capital or that income to get that house or an
Yeah.
apartment yet. But they do have some money that they can make the lifestyle a bit better. They can
Yeah.
go on holidays. But people paying mortgage on a day-to-day basis because of the interest rate hike, they might not be able to go for that factor. Okay, let's go on a holiday.
Yeah.
Because they might have to cut back on a few things in future. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. You have your pros and cons, and at the end of the day, it's always the right decision at the right time.
Yeah.
That all it comes down to.
Depending on your circumstance, it really is. Just weighing out the risk factor, the pros and cons.
There you
Do your
go.
research. Be
I think
thorough.
We covered everything,
Just
and
about it. Yeah.
if you need anything, we're always here 24/7. If you need help, going down this pathway, what's better for you with your finances or
Definitely
anything,
give us a shout. Yeah.
our doors are always open, or at least our phones are always there.
Yeah.
We'll answer that 24/7. Anything you want to add, Aaron?
I think that covers everything, Bids.
All right,
That's done.
perfect. That's over and out from
Over and out. See you later.
Harry and Bidan. We'll see you next Monday.
See you later. Bye.
Cheers.